Hello, my name is Marjorie Gerhardt. I'm the admissions tutor for the Department of Modern Languages and European Studies.
And my name's Lucy, I'm a final year German and History student.
And today for this Facebook Live event, we thought that we would tell you a little bit more about what we are looking for in personal statements. I imagine many of you will be writing your personal statements or finishing writing up your personal statements, so we thought we'll give you some of our top tips. So the first thing that I'm looking for in a personal statement when I'm reviewing an application is evidence of a motivated student, someone who really has enthusiasm for learning the subjects that they want to learn, namely in our case languages. So what can this look like? Lucy, what did you include in your statement?
Okay, so because I studied German and History, I made the point that these two things go well together. So I talked about a trip to Berlin that I went on and my favourite museums that I visited while I was there. And I also talked a little bit about books and films that I'd read as well.
So I think that's really important to include to show your interest in the subject, if you're more interested in the literature, in the history, in films, and to give concrete examples. I think that is something that works really well in statements. Another thing that we're looking for in a statement is some evidence of being an independent learner, so someone who has, for instance, some time management experience, abilities. So have you included anything in your statement?
Yeah, so I talked about the sort of reading into the subject around what I did in class as well. So the films that I mentioned in my personal statement were things I'd watched outside of class. They weren't on the A-level curriculum. But then also with the time management, I discussed things I did outside of my my A-level course. So like I was a house captain for my school, so I talked about that and what that involved and tried to show how that made me a good student as well.
I think that's good advice as well. You don't have to mention only academic activities, but also extracurricular activities or volunteering, for example, working and other things, caring responsibilities even. Another thing which you've hinted at, and I think that's important as many of the students applying to join our department want to do two subjects. So it could be a language with another language, or it could be a language with history, as in your case, a language with business, with literature, with linguistics. So you said that you tried to include the trip to Berlin to show that how the two subjects work together.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well, with obviously mine being German and history, I focused on how those two things tied together and why it was important for me to do both at university. So I wanted to make it clear that my passion for German complements my passion for history and vice versa, rather than it just seeming like I wasn't really sure which one to choose.
Yeah, that's a positive way of showing it. And I think languages thankfully work so well with so many other disciplines that it can be quite productive and fruitful and quite easy in some ways to include it in your personal statement. So it could be, if you're interested in applying for Spanish and literature, it could be books that you have read, or if it's to do with business, obviously there are many opportunities internationally. So there are lots of ways of combining the two subjects and including them both in your personal statement, and it's definitely worth doing. I think we've covered a lot of our top tips, but perhaps the most important one is that it should be personal. It should give us an idea of who you are and what you could be like as a student here. So I would say, give us an insight into what kind of person you are, what motivates you. That would probably be quite important.
Yeah, I would also say make sure you give yourself time to write your personal statement. Don't leave it till the last minute. Make sure you leave enough time that you can check it thoroughly and you can be comfortable and confident with what you're submitting.
Yeah, my advice would be proofread. Make sure that in the time that you take to write your statement that there are no sort of typos, or with modern languages, one of the issues that we sometimes encounter in statements is some spell checker fails where word corrected a book title or a film title in the target language and changed it to something that doesn't really make sense in the target language. So proofread, especially quotes or book titles, film titles in the target language.
Yeah, and also off the back of that, with proofreading, don't be afraid to ask other people to read it, whether that's one of your teachers at school or whether it's your parents or maybe it's just a friend. I had everybody that I could think of read my personal statement. Some people find it helps to read it out loud as well and use that to make sure that you're properly proofreading it rather than seeing what you want to see on the page. So anything you can think of to help you with proofreading, I'd really recommend.
I hope these sort of top tips have been helpful. If you have any questions, we'd be very happy to be contacted. Our email address is in the comments, and yeah, good luck.